Hi, I'm Rick Dior, and today we're going to talk about one of the greatest drum books ever written, in my opinion, and that's Rick Latham's Advanced Funk Studies. Now, this is an old book. This came out when I was studying drums when I was a teenager in the 80s, and it looked like this. Not sure if it has a different cover now, but back then it came with a cassette, and I'm sure it comes with a CD now. And I was lucky enough to meet Rick in the 1990s when I was doing some clinics for Vic Firth. We ran into each other at a South Carolina PAS Day of Percussion event. I was doing a drum set clinic and with some electronic percussion as well. And he was doing a clinic on this book. A really nice guy. Turns out he went to East Carolina, and a good friend of mine, Peyton Beckton, also went there, and he was the principal percussion for years until he retired with the symphony orchestra that I performed with. So anyway, this book has a special place in my heart. When I was a kid, I loved it. It's one of the books that really made me want to practice a lot. And by today's standards, it's not difficult. Today you have lots of different kinds of books that deal with funk drumming. Of course, David Garibaldi's books, especially Future Sounds, and Stanton Moore's books. There's a lot of books out there, a lot of Dennis Chambers play-alongs, things like that are more complex, more notey. But this book was really the first one to feature transcriptions and the language of funk drumming in that day. Now, of course, you had David Garibaldi with Tower of Power, you had Steve Gadd, you had Harvey Mason, you had Peter Erskine playing some funk things. Lots and lots of great drummers who are still active today. But this book has a section of transcriptions from those great players, which I loved. And of course, since I was so into doing transcriptions myself, I would check my transcriptions against this book. So it has a section on Steve Gadd, David Garibaldi, Harvey Mason, like I said, Carlos Vega, who's no longer with us, Peter Erskine, Jerry Brown, and so on and so forth. At the end of the book, there's a collection of solos. There's 10 solos that are great, because what they do is they take the components of the book and they put them together to create these solos. And each one of them, I think, I haven't spoken to Rick about this, but is in the style of a different drummer. So what you just heard me play was solo number 1. It's in the style of Steve Gadd. You could hear him play plenty of that kind of stuff in the 70s and 80s with many, many artists. So we're going to do a series on all of these solos. Eventually, I will record all of them, but this is the only one that I'm going to talk a lot in. I'll probably talk a little in the others. So we'll just talk about the book and how the solos are constructed, how I use it to teach, and good ways to practice. Now, the first thing you need to know is that I teach these solos in ways that you can ad lib. In other words, you probably heard some cymbal crashes, some open hi-hats. That's okay. You can do that with the solos. As long as you're maintaining the original purpose of them. In other words, try to stick to the tempo. You can go a little slower, a little faster, but that's the style. As well as, hi-hat notes. Try to play all the notes, but you can add opens and things like that. That's the way you're going to really be able to explore your capabilities by doing that. So of the 10 solos, I feel like this one is the easiest. And like I said, it's in the style of Steve Gadd. Now there I was doing it at the tempo of 120, which is the written tempo. Now you can go faster. You can go a lot faster. So one thing I have all my students do is they play these solos at many tempos. It's good to play it slow, so a good slow tempo for this is quarter note equals 100. So let me play a little of that for you. And that's sort of an exercise in control. Now when I do it that slow, what I do is I subdivide the 16th like this. 1, 2. You saw I added an open hi-hat, a choke on the end of that. So doing these slow is tremendous for your control. And it's hard to do because you got to subdivide with that metronome and try to get everything as close as possible to that 16th. It doesn't have to be robotic, you know. It just has to be, you know, true to the tempo that you're playing and even as you can get it. Now you'll see there I do a lot of ghosting, and there's plenty of ghosting in this book. That's part of what makes funk drumming so special, is the ghost notes. So there's a lot of notes that you play really, really soft. Pretty much anything that's not accented needs to be slightly ghosted. And in the book, sometimes he'll put things in parentheses, which means you barely play them at all. So those ghost strokes are important. So think about it in different dynamic levels. The accented notes would be fortissimo, and the ghosted notes would be piano, soft. And then everything else, like the kick drum and stuff like that, you know, in between that, like a forte, okay? But the accented notes you want to bring out. Also, on your hi-hat, you want to use the accented notes, you want to use the shaft of your stick, like this. And then the other ones with your tip. So there's lots of that. So that gives you a lot of variation in sound. So you don't sound like a drum machine, you know. That's one thing a drum machine has trouble doing, unless you're an unbelievable programmer, is the hi-hat velocity. So, you know, you need to be able to do that. So you don't want to play it like this. Okay, that's really, really stiff. You don't want to do that. Then the other thing, like I said before, you can add some things to this. So if we play it at a really fast tempo, normally the fastest I'll do this is 130, and I'll play that for you now, and I'll add some things to it. 1, 2. So I added some hi-hat notes and a few cymbal crashes, and I also was doing a little bit of a dribbling on my snare drum, so a little bit of ghosting. Not sure if you caught that, but that fills in all those 16ths, and it's barely audible. I'm just kissing the head like that. So those are really good things to do to fill up the space. Helps you play a little more evenly and adds some, you know, spice to your recipe there. So that's solo number 1. Now again, like I said, all of these are from particular exercises throughout the book, and we're not going to go over too many of those. Again, they're not that difficult, but you can go through all these. Now, the first section, which is hi-hat 16th notes, and then openings. That's a good section to start with. And then he has some fill patterns, but really what you want to look at the most if you're, you know, if you've already been playing a while and you're new to the book, is pages 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, and 23. That's sort of the meat and potatoes of the book, and it contains all of the parts that make up the solos that follow. And then, of course, there's the section on transcriptions, which I already talked about. So, as time permits, I'll try to post these within the next few months. I'll do one here and there as I have time. And please keep sending me all your comments and great emails. So take care.